Yes, Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. What's going on with your world? Whew, man, so many things are going on. The last week or 2 weeks has been really a hurricane of events, unprecedented turns, lots of suspense in the political world. We know that we were faced with a very difficult decision at the polling box, and that is whether or not to vote for our president, Joe Biden, reelect him. Uh, really old, seasoned. There's a lot going on there, and every time you try to have faith, you'll see him on TV, and the man is just really struggling with it. You ain't mad at him, but at the same time, maybe Brother Joe, you need to sit down. Then the Orange Man has a rally and somebody tries to shoot and kill him. Today, the Secret Service chief resigned under much pressure. And I did watch a part of those hearings on yesterday. And yeah, she needs to step it on down because she had nothing for the Congress people and the senators and whatnot as they grilled her about what happened. Their job is to keep these elected officials really safe. And that does appear to be a monumental failure. But I will just put out there for me, uh, there's a lot of unanswered questions. And so we'll just leave it at there and let the FBI and all of the law enforcement people do what they do and find out what the final story is going to be. But after the guy gets, shot in the ear, then they hold their Republican National Convention and he chooses a young guy, ex-Marine, Semper Fi, J.D. Vance, uh, as his running mate. I'm wondering, looking at how he delivered his speeches, the Orange Man, if he had an epiphany after getting shot in the ear. Is he having a reconciliatory spirit? These types of life-changing events tend to change us, don't they? That's just me and my spiritual side wondering what's going on in his mind. But then, out of the blue, President Biden pulls out of the race. This is Sunday. Breaking news. And now, Vice President Kamala Harris is in the seat running for President of the United States. This is all Sunday. And now today is Tuesday as we put this particular podcast on together. Over the last 48 hours, there was massive, Zoom calls and meetings and community get-togethers to raise funds for Kamala Harris, to encourage everybody to get out there and vote. It just changed the whole dynamic of the election cycle, made it even the more intense. And so, for me, I just wanted to reach out through my Rolodex, see what's really going on, help us understand what is really happening in this process. And so I know she's an executive inside of the Democratic National Party. And she's an expert and one of my go-to people to educate us and inform us and inspire us on what's going on politically. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is Carolyn Fowler. I think she's there. There she is. Ha ha. Good morning. How are you today?
Greetings, Greg. Great. How about yourself?
God, doing all right. Just trying to make things happen. Make things happen. Carolyn,
Yeah.
wow, what is going on in the political field? My goodness.
This is a Marvin Gaye moment, huh? What's going on?
Yes, indeed. Okay, so I'd like to just start by getting your reaction as a professional. I mean, you're a veteran at this, right? I mean, you're in there. You're not playing. This is in your blood. Now, when you saw the news that President Joe Biden was pulling out of the race, what was your reaction?
Candidly, it was mixed. I know a lot of people say, what? But Joe Biden, and I'm glad you're starting there. because I know I'm also chair of the Women's Caucus for the state party. We posted on my Women's Caucus Facebook, California Democratic Party Women's Facebook, a letter because we truly understand and respect all of the transformation just in that short time he and Vice President Harris have achieved, particularly for the African American community. So, you have mixed feelings about that. Um, but at the same time, we certainly owe him a debt of gratitude and respect. And I think his legacy will be that of being one of the greatest presidents because of what he has accomplished in such a short time. And then on the other hand, you're euphoric because what? Uh, the opportunity for the first Black, Asian, female president of the United States, my soror, I'm Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated all the way, the opportunity. And I think the energy, I mean, I don't think many of us have slept. I'll just be quite honest, because we went immediately, as Black women do. Some of us, and thanks to, I have to shout out Jakarta, Edie, and Holly Holiday. They had been hosting Win with Black Women for quite some time, weekly. So I say, just as a time such as this, that we're organized, we're ready to jump into action at opportunity when it presents itself. And Sunday, with over 44,000 women on that call and raising $1.5 million in 3 hours, or maybe 4 hours, whatever, unheard of, unprecedented. And then to follow it up the next, within the next couple of days, you had 10,000 women, 10,000 men winning with Black men. And the brothers came through. They raised $1 million too. So the excitement is clearly there. Last night, Kelly Todd with the California Collective for Black Women, she had 10,000. I just say the plane has left the airport. Not the train, not the bus, the plane. The campaign itself raising that amount of money. I'm also most proud. I'm a DNC member, Democratic National Committee member, but also I am the controller for the state party. And our chair, Rusty Hicks, pulled all the delegates together yesterday. Our Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi, made the motion. And we have over 400 and some delegates. So we turned in our delegates that we had there last evening, and I'm sure that put her over the top in terms of being able to get the nomination. It is an open process, however. Anyone could have asked the delegates for their support. So I want to make clear about that. Some people want to say, oh, they're just going to rush it through. No, anyone has an opportunity to apply and do what she did, appeal to the delegates. But I think Joe's endorsement, her track record, her work with him, I think that just kind of made it difficult for anyone to think about it. Many of the people that were considering it, or we would have considered, right away came out and endorsed her. Our own governor, Newsom, the governor from Pennsylvania, Shapiro, I think Kentucky. So many of the people, I think Governor Whitman from Gretsch from Michigan is going to be her co-chair for her campaign. So there's just, they raised over $100 million. It just is, and it's still going. It's still going. And I think Joe, in his wisdom, knew what needed to happen. I think he was presented the data, and he's a trooper. I'm not sure many electors would have done what he did.
It takes a lot, when you think about it, because he was really, really
he was vested
that he was going to run. That
was
takes a lot.
He was vested in what he thought was best for the people, and especially the working class people. And so, but in the end, as he always has been, really, he made the best decision he thought for the country and for the party, and appears that he was once right again.
Now, help us understand the process, though. You know, us everyday people. So, uh, we know when I saw the news, breaking news, you know, Joe Biden withdraws from the race, endorses Kamala Harris, and I see the pundits on TV, the mainstream media immediately began to cast doubt. This is just how I see it. You know, and like, you know, I heard words like she's got to earn it. And I heard words like, you know, we don't want it to be a coronation or all that. And while okay, we want a process and there's processes and procedures in place, why wouldn't we want her to step into the role? She's next in line no matter how you slice it. She's the vice president of the United States. So for those of us on the street, you know, our normal folks like me, help me understand the process that she has to go through in order to achieve the nomination.
Well, first, let me start by addressing she has earned it. If you look at her career as a DA, as Attorney General, as a senator, and I think I challenge people to go look at some of those clips of her questioning as senator some of those Supreme Court justices. I see why former President Trump is not necessarily interested in a debate. She has been with President Biden the entire step of the way. And if you see the relationship between them, there's a lot of respect between the two of them. She's been in most of the meetings he's been in. She's been in, I don't know, probably over 100 countries. She understands the game plan. So when they say what makes her earn it, I just can't think of anyone that has probably more qualified at this point in time based on her being the vice president. But the process, anyone, as I said, could have applied. What is required according to our rules is 1,976 delegates. Last night I think when I last watched, she had 2,600. Wow. So technically, it would have been impossible at this point for anyone to gain 1,976 of the 30-some thousand, 3,800 of delegates. We do have a Rules Committee meeting tomorrow. It will start at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern time. The Democratic National Committee YouTube is where it's open to the public to observe. They will then share with us the next steps and the process from there. Her having the number of delegates to move forward says ultimately we were already going to be having a virtual vote. Many have heard about what happened with Ohio and them not wanting to extend the date. Our convention is August 19th to the 22nd. Their deadline for getting on the ballot occurs prior to that time. So as a result, our rules, we've had to do virtual voting before because of COVID. So the rules went back, we reviewed everything, and we voted for the rules for this particular endorsement to be done virtually so we could meet the timeline. But there are a lot of complexities that happen to get all these names on the ballot. Obviously, what needs to happen is she would be certified as a candidate. We would need to vote. I think the chair, and they'll talk about all that in the rules, that process. And then she would need to, if confirmed, would need to select a VP. And they would be confirmed at the convention. But we knew we had to take this virtual vote. And so we're moving towards that the first week in August, between August 1st and August 7th. But the precise direction we will be taking from our rules committee tomorrow.
Wow, moving fast and furious in this.
Fast and furious. Yeah.
Yeah,
As I said, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
that's right. Hello. Let me ask you. Okay, so now we do all this, and I read where Nikki Haley, who had given her votes to Trump, a lot of her delegates are seeking to go to, I guess, to Kamala or to the Democratic National Party. Is that true? And how does that work?
I don't know about, they're registered Republicans, so I don't know about that. I did read, though, that there's a Nikki Haley PAC, and they have decided apparently to support Kamala. I did
Oh, okay.
read that. I did read that.
Yeah, that's
To
the money organization.
the money, yes, the PAC.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a Nikki
Wow.
Haley PAC, and
Mhm.
it was listed as a supporter. So it's going to be interesting times, but it is going to move. We really don't have a lot of time. There's probably only
Mhm.
104 days to election. Think about that. And then
Mhm.
the ballots drop before that.
Mhm.
And the military ballots go even before then.
Mhm.
So it is a very short window uh, to get out to the public, let them, those that do not know Vice President Harris, she's trying to make as many visits and uh, presentations as she can. We don't know if there's going to be for certain I know most people want it now, a debate, but in the lieu of there not being, we have to communicate her message. But it's pretty clear what her message is in terms of staying as President Biden said, finish the job.
Mhm.
The infrastructure, the chips, the Medicare, making sure that the pharmaceuticals don't rip us off, making certain that we continue to help with college debt, make for the young people. Uh, 45 million people, they weren't all young, received college debt relief. I'd like to think that those are 45 million votes.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Just to show. Many of the labor unions are coming on board now. But we have to get out and vote. We have to do the work, people.
Mhm.
We understand. Uh, President Biden really been working on getting that gas down. He finally got that done. Now that he's working on, he just admitted, and he's calling people out about gouging these grocery prices, etc. And I think if anybody cares about it and is willing to do something about it, it's this administration.
Mhm.
And so I think it's for her to carry the mantle. And as he said over and over again, he wouldn't have picked her if he didn't think she could replace him. He thought about all of that before he made that selection.
Mhm. I'm glad you laundry listed some of the touch points of, the platform, because I had to sit down last night and just kind of laundry list for myself. What are the most important issues for me? And I found Social Security number one.
Yeah,
You know,
me
uh,
too. Me too.
right? So, and then I think I was thinking about, well, I just want peace. They're doing too much warring out here for me.
That too, that as well,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
that's what I like about the fact that she has been to all these countries and met with all these leaders. I don't think many candidates could say that when you talk about transition. I said to someone, I know some people were talking about, well, maybe this person should be better at it. I said, well, I understand what you're saying, but I said, let's think about even general business. I come from corporate America while I'm in education now. Uh, if we had two top leaders leading and one was leaving, you wouldn't get rid of the other one. There's no transition. No company would do that when they're doing, when they're doing what needs to be done. So it put a different light on it when people thought about it. They said, yeah, you can't just think of the domestic piece. You have to think of it from a global perspective.
yes.
But it still gets down to who do you trust to make those decisions and work on getting what's right, increasing the job market. We've had the lowest unemployment in the history of this country under this administration. and they're still crying. The whole purpose of the infrastructure, all of that is to create jobs and getting people trained to learn those trades. And these would not just be jobs; these would be good paying jobs, so
Mm-hmm.
people could afford to live. The housing crisis, it's a crisis, and we know it's a national crisis. So who cares about? I think the administration just made an announcement about housing and capping the rent nationwide and so forth. So no other administration has been doing those things, thinking about the day-to-day people. And that's what's important. And that to me is going to be the difference. People can do all the name calling and everything they want. And I just always say to everybody, look, there's no perfect candidate, or if there is, you need to share who that might be. But they
Right.
didn't step up to run. I'll just say that.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't
Well,
step
I'll
up.
admit, I actually have never really been the biggest Kamala Harris fan. She just hasn't didn't hit me, over time.
Yeah.
I do have some very positive stories, like the one time she came to my church, and as the church was letting out, we were in the parking lot. I was with my grandson. He was about 11, and she took him to the side after, all the VIPs and the people that are around her. She was running for senator in those days. And when she met him, she took him to the side and just chopped it up with him for about 10 or 15 minutes. Her people were like, it's time to go, time to go. But she was really, really steadfast in pouring into Josiah. And I just really have always admired that about her. But I have not really been like, okay, woo, Kamala Harris. But I do recognize in this day and time that she's the right choice. She's the right choice for me.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Now,
I
I,
was
I was watching Carolyn when she came to the campaign headquarters yesterday, and I watched that one very closely. And when she reminded us that she was a prosecutor, and she was dealing with fraudsters and
the
people.
banks. Let me
I was
just
like,
tell you.
okay, I almost felt sorry for Trump because when you look at it, he has a whole team of the sisterhood on his neck. You got
Yeah,
Kamala Harris. What's his name? Letitia Wright. Even sister down there in Georgia, Fonnie Willis.
yeah,
Oh,
it's interesting. It's a coincidence, I'm sure. But
yeah.
I have to tell you two things you brought to mind. Many people don't realize that. And Congresswoman Waters reminded people yesterday. Uh, the finance industry was really taking advantage, and particularly of our communities, and the those payday loan lenders, etc. And she and Bo Biden really stood toe to toe with them. In fact, so much that President Obama asked them to accept the offer that they were making. And she told him no. They told him no. Now, I don't know many people that would tell the President of the United States no. And they held their ground and they got the states more money back. It still probably wasn't right, but they hung in there. And so it's those types of stories. I was two of our sorority boulets ago. I was flying to Houston
Mhm.
and from LA. And not only who gets on the plane, she was attorney general then. Not only does she get on the plane, but she sits right next to me.
Oh.
And so you're right. I thought, well, I'm just going to be quiet and let her. But she started chopping it up, and
Mhm.
well, she knew I was sore too. But just so down to earth, just so carefree and amiable. And then we both said, "Okay, I'm going to take a nap."
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
just that's who she is. What you see is what you get, and I think that's what the public needs to see. There is no perfect person. There's some
Mhm.
people are going to always try to find fault, but I think for us, for certainly for me, she now seems to have the backing of the party. I think we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to be moving fast. And I'm just the energy that it has created with young people, all ages actually. I have people texting me. I'm still getting texts. Okay, I'm in. I got my running shoes on. People that said they weren't going to vote, or they weren't going to vote the top of the ticket. Um, because I don't deal with people that don't vote.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You
Yes,
don't
that
vote, don't
it's
talk to
so
me.
important, right? It's essential.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
How do you not vote? And particularly
Mhm.
the lower races are the ones that you really need. And I this is the part I want to emphasize. If you really want to see, we can't just send someone to the White House. They have to have support. So
Mhm.
these congressional races and Senate races in all these states, particularly California, has the opportunity to really make a difference. That's
Mhm.
where we need the resources and the volunteering, the phone
Mhm.
banking, the texting, the canvassing for these 5 to 7 races here in the state of congressional seats in the state of California. Tomorrow, uh, is tomorrow Thursday? I don't even know what day it is. On
Yeah,
Thursday,
tomorrow's Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Day after
on
tomorrow's Thursday.
Thursday, yeah, there's a California Leadership Summit. I'll send you the flyer,
Okay.
and it's from 5:30 to 7:30, and you'll hear from all the congressional candidates and their campaigns and how you can support those efforts.
Mhm.
But that's what we have to do. We can't just send her there with no help,
Mhm.
because that's where the work takes place in the Congress and the Senate. And so we have to have the right people that believe in supporting our working class people to make this to make this a success for her as well, because we don't want her to fail.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the lower races because I wanted to ask you how does all of these machinations affect the what I guess the term I'm hearing now is down ticket.
Down
Because
ticket.
for me, I've always one thing that I've learned in being a member of Black media for more than 30 years is that it always comes down to the people. I don't care how you slice it, it goes down to the people.
Politics is
So,
local.
how is all this mess affecting our local elections?
Well, I hope that it will affect it in the way that we will have a stronger voter turnout, if
Mhm.
nothing else, and
Mhm.
that maybe more people will be paying attention. We have 10 ballot measures on, and that's what I find when we're canvassing. People, particularly our seniors, they're afraid to vote because they don't want to vote the wrong way. So
Mhm.
this has got to become an education, and we're asking our legislators to hold town halls. We're asking our clubs and so forth to hold town hall, so people have the opportunity to be educated on the pros and cons of these measures, for example, and to understand the differences in the candidates that are running and who's supporting these candidates. And if these measures, who's paying the most money for these measures? Because sometimes that gives you a clue whether you should vote for it or not,
Sure,
depending
sure.
on who's funding it. Uh, so it is an education period, but everybody can do something. They can donate something. People are donating $5. People are donating $1. All of that adds up on a mass scale. They said that on the other night on Sunday when they raised the 1.5. They said, "Hey, just do $1,
Mhm.
but do something." Now, last night, of course, from our supervisor Holly Mitchell, she gave a whole little plan on, look, the maximum is 3,300. Let me tell you how you can do it. There's If you get paid once a month, that's 4 checks of $800
Wow.
a month. That you can do that, do that. She said if you get paid twice, it's 7. So she told us exactly how we can figure it out, exactly how you can pay it, but it does take money. It does take money to get the message and the word out. So those of us that can do that, I remember when Barack ran, people were giving $1. The seniors were giving $5, $1, but all of that across the nation added up.
Mhm.
And then the energy was there like it is now. In fact, I think this energy is higher.
Mhm.
Uh, for people, they understand they must vote, not only at the top of the ticket, all the way down. So if you don't understand when you get your ballot, there are places and people and organizations. I don't care. Call your member's office, call your councilman, call your legislator. How do we vote? Who are you supporting? What are we doing? But there's no excuse not to vote. And the young people typically know more about it anyway.
Yeah.
When they once they get on board, they pay attention to each of the issues and how to vote, and they help people to vote.
Well, I know black people, they got their attention now. I heard, I think it was Joe Biden that was actually telling a newscaster about the black vote, and he was saying that the black Americans don't engage until after Labor Day anyway. And when I heard that, I was like, well, this time I feel like we're really engaged, and then all of this stuff happened, right? So now we're
Right.
hyper engaged.
Hyper engaged. But I have to say this as well, because especially as chair of the Women's Caucus, listen, this is not just Sunday night. Anna Navarro, I don't know if you know her, but she was on the call, and she said, "Look, sisters, some of us are on here too. This is they're trying to send my people out here. We got to work together."
Yeah.
So that is true. This is not a this is the black, this is the Asian, this is the, we all have to work together, because what we're working for is so that everybody can get a piece of the pie and live comfortably, and the benefits for our children. Uh, when we win, we should win together.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, when we think about it, I was going to ask you about the um, lost my train of thought. Well, let me just jump to this here. One of the other items that, and you may not know this, or maybe you do. I don't know. I'm just going to ask you because you're a big player in the Democratic National Party. How does the Democratic National Party feel about funding for the arts? I know that with that Project 2025, they want to defund arts and culture, which is the NEA at a federal level. And they also want to defund the public broadcasting. And they actually named the NPR and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is TV, PBS, and all.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
How do you feel? How will the Democrats help preserve those institutions? Should those areas be cut?
Well, this isn't. Let me just be clear. First of all, that those are federal programs, so it's not so much the party as what is the how does the administration, who and the like I said, the Congress and the Senate that appropriate funds for those projects. That's who has control over uh, the funding of that. They want to totally get rid of public education. That's what Project 2025. Everybody within the listening of my hearing my voice should understand what the Republicans plan to do with Project 2025. If you understand the decimation of uh, democracy, is what I say it, in every aspect that they want to, it's just a total dictatorship, is what they would have. Uh, and so people need to understand that, read about that, Google it. I don't care how old you are or how young you are, you need to understand what they're trying to do. The administration has been trying to preserve those programs, as you very well know. The investments they've made in education, and it's almost never enough. There needs to be more in special education, but to get rid of public education means all the people that are low income would suffer. Everybody can't afford to send their kid to private school. So just education alone, they want to get rid of Social Security. They want to give it. So it's just total. They want to deport everybody. Mass deportation. I don't know how you do that. I think that question was asked and nobody did answer it, because I don't know how you do that. Just stripping. It's spiteful, to be quite honest. Being able to go after your colleagues that didn't agree with you. Uh, Unbelievable. But I think what we have to do is, I'm the optimist. Always been the eternal optimist. If we put in the work, we shall reap the rewards. And for most of us, we must look to the future. And the future for us should be the Democratic candidate and the Democratic slate that comes out. These are the people that want us to move forward, not backward. that understand the importance of a woman's right to choose, that understand that our seniors need protection. And this isn't money that, uh, this is money they earned. This is not a handout or a giveaway. And so all of these areas that concern us, I just don't see. It's to me, it's a night and day difference. I don't understand what people are hesitant about, but get your mind right, get your facts straight, and I don't see how you could vote for any other
Yeah.
individual
Well,
other
I
than
think
Kamala Harris.
mainstream media, especially, they're just doing what they do. They always see us in a less than light, and that's how I interpreted all of the first reactions of news media. And I watched there's actually a couple of channels, and I ended up just going, like you guys are totally underestimating.
They always do.
Yeah, they
But I
always
like
do,
it.
right?
I like to be underestimated.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
love
right.
being underestimated. But also, I think you have to understand corporately who
Mm,
runs these networks. Most of the CEOs are Republicans.
yeah, yeah,
So, what do you expect?
sure.
So, that's when the people have to pay attention, have to educate themselves. We have to help them to understand what is in their best interest. Because really, there's states that really have been electing people that are not in their best interest, and they're suffering big time on health care and many other issues because of it. I thought I read about the governor of Arkansas, Huckabee. I think she's one of the no, we need to get rid of government until that tornado hit. Now
Right.
she wants support. Now she wants support. Oh no, you don't need government.
Yeah.
Government can't. Now you want government to help you. Oh, okay.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Let me ask you an abstract question. This actually just flashed across my mind. Last night I was doing some work as the board president of the Arts Council for Long Beach, and I happened to look at City Council. I was studying something that we had done back in April, and I was looking at City Council, and I just kind of dawned on me that the entire City Council and the mayor are Democrats. Is it possible for a city to endorse a presidential candidate? Is that in the rules, or is it possible, or can it be done?
Normally, it's the elected officials themselves, not
Mhm.
the city. It's like the mayor, typically, or the council. Uh, the supervisors can endorse. Uh, Judges can't endorse.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
But it's not the city itself. But typically, how they do that is, I live in Inglewood. Typically, how they do is that the mayor and then the council, they all individually agree, and that's
sure,
how it's done.
sure, sure. Wow, that's very fascinating stuff. Now, I just want to ask you this question. Now, we've been emphasizing the need to vote. It's a very essential. You know, how would you counsel someone who may be listening here, mom, dad, uncle, Paul, Mama, somebody in their family, especially one of the young people, just says, "Hey, I'm not going to vote." Outside of the cliches that we tend to tell our people that say they're not going to vote, that so many people died for the right, all that, all that, all that. How would you counsel us in talking to our friends and family who just do not want to vote?
I think for me, when I'm talking to young people that say that, I say, well, I hear you, but I think personal stories work.
Mm,
You say, well, do you have a grandma or do you have a grandpa, grandfather, whatever? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are they on Social Security? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're on Social Security. Well, do you realize that that could be taken away? And how would they live? You have to make it. You have to make it real for people. You have
mm,
to make it real for people. Um, do you understand? I don't know if you drive or whatever. Have you been buying gas? You know how high it's been. I said, well, if we didn't vote and press the administration and complain about it, gas would not be 3 something now. It would probably be up to 7 or 8. So your vote makes a difference. You've got to make it personal. I don't know whether it's college education. You have to be in the right scenario, but you need to make it personal so that they understand the potential loss. And also, if I don't vote, this person is fighting for you to have no tuition-free college. So that, don't you see that as a benefit? That's why you need to vote for the right people that are trying to do things to help you and our family. Jobs, so you have to make it so that it's real for them. You're right. It's we voted for years and all that stuff's not going to work anymore. It's got to be personal. And that's where I think you have to talk to people about it and what voting has done and can do and will do if you vote. And what happens if you don't? Then you get, that's how we got Mr. Trump.
Now, on the ginormous conference call the other night, and then even the men's one, I was on the men's last night. And
Okay.
two things that I noticed. Number one, I was really proud to be a part of, participating and listening and sitting in and really listening to the brothers from across the country. Well, at least across from most of the country, which brings me to my first question about it. Why were those conference calls so heavily East Coast? It was as if us on the West Coast we have to do our own. Why is that? And then number two, I'm not a Greek letter man, and not because I was against it when I hit the university. I had already been in the Marine Corps, and I was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, which means I had been through a few initiation situations. As an example, when we crossed the equator, and I crossed the equator twice while I was in there, so I went through it. And so when I got on the campus and I saw, what the frats were doing, I was just like, no, I'm good. So, I felt I was able to work through it, but I know that there were a lot of brothers out there that they weren't alphas or omegas and all these whole things, and it was kind of a Greek fest, really, honestly speaking. What do we say to those of us who were not part of the Greek organizations, and how can the Greek organizations in this space be more inclusive?
Well, first, let me just start by saying I can only speak to the women. As I shared with you, Jakarta and Holly, we've been meeting for maybe 2 years. I didn't come on at the very beginning. So, and they're East Coast. So that's how it started, and it built from there. The women are from all over the country, as you can imagine. 44,000. They're not all in the East. So I think a lot has to do with where things start. Even on sororities and fraternities, wherever they started and were initiated, that's typically where they have the bigger organizations because that's where they started. And so, AKA's Howard University. So that's it, the HBCUs. But I think the Divine Nine is a separate issue. The Divine Nine rode in the Biden-Harris campaign big time because many of our organizations have 30,000 or more members.
Sure.
And so that's a lot of votes, especially if we collectively say this is what we're going to do. And that's kind of like the power of the Black vote that kind of most people don't know about or don't talk about, but
Sure.
yet here we are.
Yeah.
I don't think when they started these, or it wasn't about Greeks. It was really about the issue. It was about the issue for women, about more women getting elected and having seats at the table. And so how do we train women? How do we support women that are qualified for these opportunities? How do we insist on these opportunities? Uh, the 10,000 of California, like I mentioned, California Collective, that started because of Keep the Seat.
Mm-hmm.
When we were trying to keep the Senate seat, Kamala's Senate seat when she left. That's how the West Coast California piece got started,
Mm-hmm.
Kelly Todd. So it just depends on the issue and and what's going on. But I didn't, you might hear people shout out there, whatever, but this is bigger than that.
Right.
This is about this is about the benefit for all of us
Mm-hmm.
uh, to have a better quality of life, to be quite honest. And voting is that method because, as I usually say, on election day, they're not counting dollars, they're not counting endorsements, they are counting votes.
Mm-hmm.
So, votes is what we need, people. And we need you to do just that, vote.
Mm-hmm. Wow, well, on that one, I think that's what we really need to do, and I think we'll end it on there. That's all that needs to be said, right? Say, enough said, as they
No,
say.
so,
What is your blessed hope as we end this conversation? And I want to keep calling you through this season and open up my modest platform for you to share with us and try to move the needle along as we, march towards the prize for you. What is the blessed hope of the Democratic National? Is
well,
it
I hope
committee or convention?
I hope at convention, it's a Democratic National Committee, but the hope at convention is that we get it done. We
Yeah.
we we nominate our president and vice president, and we go to work. And many of us are working anyway. We've been working for over a year in many of these states. We have organizers on the ground talking to voters about the breadth and depth and the brilliance of the candidates that we have, and talking about the issues and why these candidates versus what we have, so that we're all in lockstep. People understanding everything is by voting, and so we do need to make Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House,
Hmm.
and the only way that can happen is if we win these congressional and Senate seats, keep the ones we have, and gain.
Hmm.
That's how he becomes a speaker. And that's the power that needs to happen. And it's within our grasp. It
Hmm.
really is within our grasp. If you really believe this is the direction in the future that we want to have for our children and our families. So I have no problem. I like the idea the last time that you had me on with a panel of guests, and we talked about the candidates and the differences and nuances in the candidates. So I look forward to doing that again with you. Certainly, we had Dr. Samad, and I forgot who else, but I think it proved fruitful to
Yes,
many
yes,
people.
absolutely. It's just really as we build our portion of the Black media, uh, segment, we want to be a source of information and inspiration to the people, from our perspective, from a
Hmm.
culturally relevant perspective. And that just means pulling together experts like yourself and just chopping it up, make it plain for us, in our communities. And we hear what we hear in mainstream media, and most of the time, those are often very, very biased messages that we receive. And even at the water cooler at work or wherever you may be, and we're out in these diverse spaces, there is a very, we don't really talk about our perspective as Americans, and so it's important for us here at Coffee Conversations with Greg J to pull, folks like yourself together so we can get the information firsthand and have a clear understanding of what to do in order to achieve the mission. And I just
And
thank you
there's
publicly.
You're welcome. There's a lot of disinformation too, and that's the other key thing is who are the trusted messengers?
Hmm.
Who are the
Yeah.
trusted messengers? And I think what we want to make certain that we do, and that's why I try to make sure we involve as many young people as possible, because they really own the social media out.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they can understand what, who, what, why, where, and translate that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that is a huge advantage for the campaigns. I'm not speaking on behalf of the campaign. You'll have to have someone come on that knows the strategy and all of that. Well, they're not
Sure.
going to tell you the strategy, but understands what's important at certain pieces in time. But what is important right now is for everyone to know that for the Democratic Party, it appears that Kamala Harris is who we have endorsed. And she's picking up speed. She's got 23 governors, 44 senators, and 194 representatives. So I think she's got some backing and support, and we need to be right there with her. Not because she's Black, not because she's Asian, because she's the most qualified candidate.
That's right. I agree with that 100%. That's why I say hashtag let's go.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do this. That's mine.
All right.
Okay,
All right,
Greg.
Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on to Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Letting us know what's going on out here in these political streets.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, Carolyn. Thank you. I'll see you all next time.
Talk
Yes, yes,
soon.
yes. All right,
Take care.
y'all. There you have it. Carolyn Fowler. She's well, before you go, give me the proper title of your positions there.
Democratic National Committee controller for the California Democratic Party, and I'm also chair of the Women's Caucus for the state party.
All right. You see what I'm saying? We got the top there. Thank you, Carolyn.
Take care. Have a great one. Be safe.
All right. Yeah, yeah. So this Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Thank you so much for listening, for joining us today. We just want to gain a foothold on all of this political action that's been taking place. We know that, man, just topsy turvy, day by day, things are changing, and then we have our friends out there who are operating in these political spaces at very high levels. You saw Carolyn as a controller. She's the chair of the Women's Caucus, Democratic National Committee. So, there it is. You're getting it right from the proverbial horse's mouth, as we say. So, you can share this. It's available on Coffee Conversations with Greg J. That's our Facebook page. It's on our website, Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. It's on YouTube. You can hit that YouTube Coffee Conversations with Greg J playlist and see all of our episodes right there. Like and subscribe there. We're really working hard to increase our YouTube game. We'll also be streaming this on Instagram. And then we cut up the audio and we push it out as an audio podcast. And that audio podcast is available wherever you get your favorite podcast: iHeart, Spotify, Podbean, Spreaker, just on and on and on. Just type in Coffee Conversations with Greg J, and you'll get right to the place to get the information. As always, y'all, just keep hope alive and love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.